Welcome back to my mom's basement, ladies and gentlemen. It is Robbie Fox, and I am here with a recurring guest. I am pleased to be back with Mick Foley. He's got an A&E biography coming up. We've been talking about these for weeks now. We've had some guests on the show talking about their A&E biographies. We've got some upcoming guests about them, and I have been loving these. As a WWE fan and a documentary fan myself, I feel like they've been crushing these week in and week out. Mick, let me just start by asking you, how are you? Are you itching to get back on the stage now that I saw you're all vaccinated and it seems the world is starting to open back up?
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, I do. I head back out on I do a comic convention in August. It'll be my first personal appearance in many, many months. And then I do hit the road in September doing the one-man shows that were canceled. So if people want to check out dates in let me see, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, they can go to realmickfoley.com. Thanks for the opening. I wasn't even intending on talking about that, but it will be nice to be out there. I mean, I went from flying like 120,000 miles just on Delta in 1 year to flying twice. So I don't believe I'll ever resume that schedule because I have enjoyed being home more often. But yeah, it would be nice to get back out there and see people.
Absolutely. I would recommend anyone in those states buy tickets if you're able to, because I've been to your one man show more than once now, and I really recommend it. I think for a wrestling fan, it's so perfect. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's difficult to make people understand, and hopefully they do after the special air, the 20 Years of Hell special. Oh, it's a wrestling show. It's I made a mistake by saying it was stand up comedy. I mean, I'm standing up. Some of the stuff I say is funny, but it is a spoken word tour, and you try to do. I try to do what we did in wrestling, which is take people on a little bit of a ride, so that when they leave they my goal is that they have a huge smile on their face when they leave. So whether that's a matter of laughing, wincing, hearing something that's surprisingly emotional, it's whatever makes sure they have a great time while they're there.
and I'm telling you, if you buy tickets to Mick's comedy show, you will have a great time. So let's talk about this biography you've got coming up. Do you
Sure.
enjoy watching stuff like this? You watching back your own career? Because as someone that like does a podcast myself, I don't even like watching back my own interviews. I don't like hearing back my own voice. So how does that land for someone like you?
I'm usually that way. Um, very critical of my own stuff. I don't like to watch my own matches back. I've never watched a match that I commentated. But I will say that I was really happy with the documentary WWE did 7 or 8 years ago for All Mankind. And that was one of the reasons where I was a little hesitant when I was approached by A&E. I was like, hasn't my story been told? And the director, Thomas Odefeld, really convinced me that he had a new take on it. And when I went to do the Stone Cold sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was really, as we say in our trade, putting it over. And because he was going to be talking to me about it, I said, okay, I'll watch the first 20 minutes. And I was really, really impressed. I remember when I was watching Steve's autobiography, his biography, rather, not autobiography, his biography, time seemed to be flying. And that's the way I felt when I was watching mine. He did a great job, and I can't wait to experience the rest of it when it airs live on Sunday.
Me either. I felt the same way with Shawn Michaels. They made a great WWE documentary on his whole career. It's one of my favorites. And then they made the A&E biography, and I was a little skeptical going in. Like, feels like they told this story. It was perfect. It was one of my favorite documentaries they made. And then you watch the A&E one, and you see some footage you've never seen. You see some interviews that are new, some new perspectives on it, and they really did. It's not a retelling. It's a different telling of the story. And you could even see that with the Ultimate Warrior one that just aired. We saw footage of like Vince giving Warrior notes mid promo, stuff that even as a big Ultimate Warrior fan, I've never seen before. So I think A&E is crushing this.
Yeah, me too. One of the things, I believe they had 7 directors working on 8 projects. So I think one of the directors tackled 2 of them. So it's not that cookie cutter feel that, the old bios, I always enjoyed them, but it's like going to a local bookstore and seeing Images of America, where every town has their own book and they're all in the same template. it's a fill in the blanks type of thing. So
Exactly.
I believe every one of these biographies has been distinct, and I know ours. I got the feeling mine is, even with something as simple as my director asking me to write out the alphabet. Uh, you know, uppercase and lowercase, capitals. What's the opposite of capital? You're a
Lowercase. I think that's fine.
all right. Either people know what I mean. And so I wrote them out, and then I see them on the screen, like, wow, that looks great.
Like
So
handwriting,
yeah,
like your
really,
handwriting.
yeah. So I'm really impressed with everything I've seen. I know the Savage documentary had its critics because I think they may have, you can argue they went off track a little bit, and that really Bubba the Love Sponge and Hulk's real life rivalry with Randy probably shouldn't have been as prominent in the documentary, but that was a story he told, and my director told me he had a great editor who really added to the process, who was a big fan, and I think that helps. And so Steve loved it. I know A&E and WW are really happy, and I hope people will tune in, even if they think they know the story.
I think so too. So I spoke with Shawn Michaels just last week, and
Yeah.
we were talking about his biography coming up. And one of the main matches that I wanted to ask Shawn about was the Mind Games match that you had with him. And I looked into this a little bit, and I realized that Jim Ross considers this the match that did the most for Shawn Michaels' career. He says this was a defining turning point in Shawn's career. I wanted to ask you, did it feel big in the moment when you and Shawn were done with that Mind Games match, which is now a legendary, almost hidden gem, which like I feel like all the hardcores are like, oh my God, you got to see this incredible match. Did it feel like, wow, we did something special out there, or did that come throughout the years?
It definitely did feel like we had done something special. I had that post-match glow, and once in a while I'll reach out to one of the current superstars and ask them if they could sleep after that match, or if they just relived every moment of it. And they were like, how did you know? I was like, hey, I've been there a few times. So that was one of those nights. I was really happy that a few years back, Edge and Christian did an anatomy of a match on their podcast with me and Shawn, and that we both remembered it almost move for move, because there are a lot of matches that you just don't remember. I think because from a psychological or mental standpoint, you tend to remember the things that went really well, the things that went really bad, and then everything else is kind of lost in the middle. It's just a vague memory. And so I was so glad that one stood out as something that we both remembered as going really well.
When you look back at your full career, then your entire journey throughout ECW, throughout Japan, throughout WWE, what are the memories that make you laugh the hardest? When you go back and you're like, I can't even think about that without bursting out laughing.
Well, some of the stuff, the interactions I did with Rock, not just on screen or not just televised shows, but the non-televised, the house shows, some of the fun we had doing at about that time when the Rock was this one, Rock was a bad guy before the Rock and Sock connection, a series of four-way. It was me, Rock, Kane, Austin. There were four-way matches. And some of the interplay, just had me holding back tears. It was so ridiculously funny. I won't explain the content of what made them so funny out of respect for the Rock's career. There was some great times. And I know it doesn't sound, people don't tend to think of my TNA days as being, although that first year, I think I did some really good stuff. But some of the stuff we were allowed to get away with on house shows, just as what you might term as shenanigans. For example, there's that fiery comeback that some wrestling fans might know, where the baby face, the good guy for the uninitiated, were like, yeah, hit the ground and go, come on, and then they would commence their comeback. But when I would hit the ring, I wouldn't just go, come on. It would last like 2 minutes, And my goal was to make Jeremy Borash laugh. And on a few different occasions, I would look over at him at the announce table, not the announce table, but ringside table, and there'd be tears streaming down his face. And we would remark on how sometimes the matches would be, I'd be the enforcer and the Tommy Dreamer and the Dudleys, some guys who've done these ultra hardcore matches in ECW. And here we are in front of a live crowd, just having the time of our lives, being as silly as possible. So, for all the, I think, well, Nick Gage, there was that documentary, Nick only has one gear. He has that hard.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, there's a yin to the yang, and the harder core you have been, and that is part of you, there is another side of you that wants to entertain people in a much different way.
It's the dude love in you, right?
The dude love. Yeah. Down on dude. I guess this is an awkward segue, or maybe a smooth segue into my cameo videos. But oh man, do I love portraying dude love on those cameo videos. So I've kind of reinvented him as the guy who thinks far more highly of his own career than he has any right to. Constantly bragging about the two things he did, which is getting down and do the 23 skidoo knock-kneed love dance and teaming up with Texas's own homegrown Chrome Dome, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, those are his two claims to fame, and he relives them every day.
I feel like almost, the movie Clerks, I watched as a child and I was like, all right, this is okay. And then I got a job in concession stand at a movie theater and I was like, okay, I get this movie. This is hysterical. And Dude Love, I felt the same way as a kid. I was like, yeah, I like Dude Love, but like really Cactus Jack and Mankind are my guys. And then I grew up and I became a bit of a stoner. And now I'm like, oh, Dude Love was so underrated. He was the best. If you could relive any one night from your career, which night would you pick? I assume it wouldn't be a night like getting thrown off to Hell in a Cell.
No. All that, obviously, we made quite an impression that night.
Great night, but maybe one that you do once, right? That's a one and done, and you're like, all right, I'm good with that.
In wrestling is the Daffy Duck bump. I might be showing my age here, but there was literally a contest on Looney Tunes between Daffy Duck and one of the other characters. Daffy finally tops it, and I think Bugs or whoever his competitor has to concede. And as Daffy's ascending to the heavens playing a harp, his reply is, I know, but I can only do it once. So that was my Daffy Duck bump, the one I can only do once. I think if I had to relive any moment, it would be that night when I defeated Dwayne for the WWE title the first time. That was really a great time and so unexpected. Not only the result, but also the way it made me feel, because I'd never based my success on being a champion, because I just honestly didn't see that in the cards. But when it happened, it was, oh man, it was incredible.
And was that moment like a I've made it moment, or like you said, you didn't base your success on being a champion? So did you feel that way already, and then that was icing on the cake?
Yeah, I did. I felt like I'd been a success. But then that victory and the subsequent ratings
that helps,
that show themselves, really took me to the next level, especially within the business, the way people thought of me within the business. So that was a great night. That's one I would like to live over.
Do you also like looking back that it happened on Monday Night Raw? I know the ratings thing is obviously a big like boost nowadays, but just the fact that title matches used to be a little more common on Raw, as a fan, I loved that.
Yeah, I was always, I have an affinity for Raw. I think I went 8 or 9 years without appearing on the SmackDown show, so that when I did come back, I was almost predominant. I was almost exclusively on Raw. And even though I did commentate on SmackDown, I always felt like a Raw guy. So there was always something about appearing on that show.
All right, now I've got a few tweets of yours that I kind of want a little more context into.
All right, let's hear it.
Not too long ago, we saw a big exploding ring mishap in wrestling, I would call it. And you tweeted about a mishap that you had in 1995 in Japan. Something similar took place to you. I wanted to know if you remember a little more about that night, like what happened with the exploding ring mishap that Mick Foley had.
Yeah, FMW had done an exploding ring on 2 different occasions. And my goodness, it was, really convincing for someone to live through it, let alone continue a wrestling match. And there was, I think on both occasions, there was that dramatic scene where the opponent would be covering his opponent, covering his opponent that night. And, there was a feeling of mutual respect because of what they'd gone through. So that's what Terry Funk and I are expecting. Although on this occasion, I bailed out of the ring to leave Terry alone. The Japanese fans and the announcer, they count down in English. I never figured out why.
Yeah, the ring count. I always thought that was strange too.
And then everyone covered their ears, and we witnessed what appeared to be 4 Roman candles, one in each corner, going. Just Harry, who'd been expecting this phenomenal explosion, stands up and he like lifts his hands out. I was like, you can't really see it, like as if to say, that's it. And then I climb in, and the words Terry says to me is, "We'd better get him back." And at that point, the injuries started piling up. We were calling stuff, calling stuff on the fly, and it resulted in 14 stitches, almost a loss of my left ear.
Oh my God.
Ear.
Both of them.
I had 40. Yeah, that would have been crazy, right? They would have looked like just 2 small ears, though. This one doesn't look all that bad, right?
No, not at all.
Other one was supposed to look like. And I had 42 stitches in 6 different body parts. So, the wire really did a number on us. So I did feel for those guys. When things did not go their way. There's sometimes things are out of your control. And I know, people will look back on that match and pan it, even though the guys did everything possible to make it memorable during the part of the match that they had control over.
All right. Another one of your tweets. This one I was so fascinated in. Your last ever appearance in Japan. You said you came in a wheelchair and left in a wheelchair. But in that appearance, you completed the match. You had a match against Kawada, right? Am I getting that right? What do you remember about that?
I had torn a ligament. It was crazy because I trained like crazy to work with Randy Orton at Backlash in 2004. And I'd lost 60 pounds and had what I thought and still think is the best match of my career.
Incredible street fight.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Must have been one of those, the straw that breaks the camel's back type of things, because I didn't do anything. I was just watching my children play using a Fisher Price water table a couple days after that match. And I went to get up and I couldn't stand. So a ligament that I've been holding on, by a thread ended up, giving way. And I told my agent, Barry Bloom, that I couldn't walk. He called me back a couple of days later and said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "Not too good." He said, "Can you walk?" I said, "No." And he said, "Bill Goldberg just got hurt. He can't make his event for Monster in Japan." And Bill had this phenomenal contract. And I realized I could make Bill Goldberg money, which was more money than I'd made in my 15 weeks in Japan combined, a lot more. And I said to Barry, I said, "I might not be able to walk, but I'll be in that ring." I went to LA, and I won't say who the doctor was, but he didn't even tell me he was giving me a cortisone injection. All I felt was a needle. What was that? And so I could walk, but I was in intense pain, and I couldn't walk well. So I did come in on a wheelchair. When I left, it was with a wheelchair. I spent that night throwing up in the toilet because I got a concussion. The kick to the head is nothing to.
Do you remember the match at all? Was it a good match? It
was good. It wasn't great. I couldn't move too well. To see clips of it, it looked like a great match, but it was short by classic Japanese standards. It's what Monster wanted, which is about 10 minutes. And, I couldn't move that well. So I did take a pounding. It was okay. Nothing to be embarrassed of, but nothing like the match I'd had with Randy Orton. And clearly it was a sellout. It was me doing something for a big.
I would just love to see you doing the full Goldberg entrance. Now hearing that story, Mick Foley pound on the door, maybe Dude Love comes out, he goes back in, then you come back out.
Man. Yeah. I was strictly a money-making enterprise that time.
Listen, I respect it. I respect the hell out of it. Another person that I spoke to last week that brought you up was Drew McIntyre. We talked about his book that he has coming out, and obviously You were a big factor in his career. You were a big advocate for him when he was not in the WWE. You wrote the forward for his book, I believe. You did the virtual signings for his book. I wanted to ask you, when Drew McIntyre got released from the WWE, he had been, Vince McMahon's chosen one. He had been 3MB, but it seemed like you saw more in him than that. What was that, and why do you think you saw more in Drew McIntyre?
Well, I didn't see more in Drew until he showed me more.
It was
So
when he first came to the Indies that
yeah,
then you realized, okay,
specifically Insane Championship Wrestling out of Scotland.
yes,
Because I didn't think Drew was ready for that huge push when he got it. I did think Three Man Band was really humorous and was a great lower card act. I remember wearing a 3MB Final Tour shirt. I was sad when they were let go because I really enjoyed those guys, but I thought this is where he should be on the card. And then he reached out to me and he said he had something he'd like me to watch. He apologized ahead of time for the language. I'm pretty well known for not using the rough stuff. I drop one F-bomb at my one-man shows at the end of the show. And if I can get a standing ovation for that one bad word, then, we know we were part of something special. And the first thing I did was text Triple H. And I don't text him very often. I don't badger them with much in the way of talent, unless something really catches my eye. And I said, you need to keep your eye on this guy. He's almost like a different human being. And I guess he did keep his eye on him as he came back. And just the progress he made was incredible. Sometimes you just need that incentive. And there's that flip switching moment from which everything else you did changes. Nothing will ever be the same. And that was that moment for Drew.
And you got to be part of an incredible moment with him in ICW where Grado beat him for the title and you got to run in for it. And like, I might rewatch that once a month on YouTube just for the pop,
It was great. Yeah. I forgot that the ring was on a platform so that when I pulled, I fell off the platform. That's the type of
yeah.
guy like me, just that sudden 6-inch or 12-inch drop, but it looked really good, and then what an atmosphere that was to be there.
Incredible, right? Yeah.
Like a Prayer, the Madonna song. I think he wasn't allowed to use it. I always maintain if Madonna herself had seen that entrance, it's something she would have approved of. Yeah, that was really amazing. That was the largest British promotion, British run promotion wrestling show in decades. And then they topped it the next year.
Yeah, I mean, Grado was the one that got me into ICW in the first place because I think Vice made the documentary on him, or, they had him in the ICW documentary itself. So when he won the title, that was like at the biggest show. That felt like almost a Daniel Bryan moment for me. And that, like, this is the ICW version, or a Mankind moment, even.
It was incredible. Yeah, I was so glad to be part of it. And I'd given Grado a flannel shirt and he wore it for years. He might still be wearing it to this day. I'm not sure.
Shout out Grado. He's about to become a father. I just saw he announced that.
Good for him.
All right. I've got one final question for you. If you can own one piece of wrestling memorabilia that you don't already own, what is it? Do you have a pick, or are you like, bro, I'm sick of wrestling memorabilia. I got it all over my house.
I always wanted Bruiser Brody's boots.
That's a great one.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it. That's the only, I don't have any memorabilia of my own showcased in my house, but I would find a spot for those Brody boots.
What about movie memorabilia? If you could pick one piece of movie memorabilia, we had CM Punk on the show recently, and he answered he wanted the door from the Black Maria in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the big 18-wheeler.
Let me think. It's something for myself because my 20-year-old's a big horror buff, so maybe I could find him something similar to that. Let me think. Man, I have a replica of the Shamrock Meats robe that Rocky Balboa wore in the original Rocky. So having the original, that would be something special.
Another great answer. Mick Foley, full of great answers today. All right, Mick, this has been a pleasure. I cannot wait for your A&E biography. And shout out May 25th, the day we're recording this. We're only 7 months till Christmas. There you go.
I celebrate halfway to Christmas, just so you know. So think of me next month. I'll be living up with the Foleys.
I'll be thinking of you. June 25th, everyone send Mick a nice tweet. Be like, happy half Christmas. Is that what you call it? Half Christmas?
Yeah, sounds good.
Happy
Halfway.
half Christmas.
Thanks a lot.